Joining us now is Kevin Smith, writer and director of the 4:30 movie. We'll dive into the creative process and the magic behind this unique film right here in the CW39 Spotlight.
Kevin Smith, congratulations on this movie, man. I absolutely loved it, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
Means the world, man. Thanks for checking it out.
Well, look, let me start with this because what was so great about it is you have the Smod Castle in New Jersey. You're like, it already looks like it's from the 80s. Let's shoot a movie about the 80s, which is a great idea. When going through this period piece, though, were there aspects of the production that perhaps you didn't consider at first when having to make it fit that 80s world?
Yeah, like we knew as long as we pointed our camera inside the theater, we could control the era. As long as people are wearing appropriate period appropriate clothing, it could be 1986. But the moment you put the camera outside, look out into the other world, across the street, there are stores that have URL addresses on them. Every car, of course, is more modern than 1986. So we were real careful, like in terms of when we looked into the outside world. When the boys have their big fight, they're outside, but they're in an alleyway. So it's like as long as at the end of the alleys, it looks like 86, we're good. We could keep you in the moment. So we had to learn how to do it with the resources we had because it's a very low budget movie. But it helped that the source material, the movie theater, like everything came from there. Since that looks old, our movie could take place in a different time altogether without costing us as much money.
Right, because that's one of the things you have to think about with a period piece is like the cost of doing everything. Like when you see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you know a lot of the budget is what you're seeing with the sets and making it feel like the time. One of the directions I read that you gave to the cast is when they're driving to the theater, they do this dance, and your your direction was make it iconic, right? And at first it feels vague, but then they go out and they actually make it iconic. Like it's a great part of the movie. Is that kind of where your direction normally goes, or was that specific for the moment?
It was for the moment. The kids were like, "What do you want us to do in this?" I was like, it's just we'll do it a couple times. Everyone will change places, and it's just think Wayne's World, doing Bohemian Rhapsody, just driving and having a good time. And they're like, "What are you looking for?" I was like, "Just make it iconic." And I walked away. And after the first take, all three of them, young actors in their 20s, are like, "That was a real head fuck. What do you mean make it iconic?" And I was like, "Oh," I said, "Well, I've been doing this like 3 decades now." And so, like, there were things we did in Clerks and Mallrats and Chasing Amy that I didn't give a second thought to, man. And yet, over time, those things became very iconic. So, while you're doing this, don't think about the moment. Think about how this is going to be viewed 30 years from now. It has to stand the test of time. So, make it iconic. And they were like, worst piece of direction ever. They
But they got it. They 100% got it, and
did,
they nailed
man. They did it so much so that, like, many movies, coming of age movies, have done the kids in the car having a good time. This one is mine and very specific. And thanks to the kids, going for it and not being, actors in the 2024, but actors who are playing kids in the mid 80s. They absolutely nailed the vibe and didn't get in a car accident. Most
and
important.
they didn't do that. So points to you on that.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about the mid 80s, I have this kind of theory. I have what I call my 85 trident, which is Back to the Future, Clue the movie, and Fletch. These are my three favorite movies of all time, right? And I know obviously with Bucklick in there and throughout the entirety of history of Kevin Smith, Fletch has always played a big part of it. What is the appeal of that film to you that has made you want to inject pieces of it in your own art throughout the decades?
I mean, honestly, I always go for the underdog character. And that's what Fletch was in those movies, the guy least likely, the human representation of Bugs Bunny, the most clever animal in the room, smarter than everybody else, but he's judged as not as smart as everybody else. The one that's not counted on, but the one you wind up counting on at the end of the day. So I've always loved that archetype, whether it's Bill Murray as John Winger in Stripes, or of course the aforementioned Chevy Chase as I Am Fletcher in Gregory McDonald's series of books, but especially in Michael Ritchie's wonderful movie. It's the guy who is always a step ahead of everybody else, even though everyone in the world discounts him. That's my favorite prototype character. Randall, Brody, Banky, these characters don't exist were it not for Fletch, for Winger, for the characters of Bill Murray, all, even Bill Murray's character Tripper in Meatballs as well. These characters made an impact for me when I was in a movie theater, and they still live on in my characters to this day.
Well, again, this movie, to me, when people watch it, it puts you right back where we all were when we had our first date and our first kiss. They all happened at a movie theater. And I just want to share with you, your work has also inspired me throughout my life, inspired me to write screenplays and do things like this. So I really appreciate the time with you, and just congratulations on what I feel is one of your best.
That means the absolute well. The best thing you could say to any artist, as you know, is your thing made me want to do a thing. That's how the arts keep going. So thank you for that.
Well, Kevin Smith, I really appreciate the time, and congrats again.
Such a pleasure. Great talking to you.
We appreciate a great chat with Kevin Smith. Be sure you check out the 4:30 movie in theaters now. But until next time, I'm Brad Gilmore, CW39 Houston.